Namaste, my name is Janapati Das, and this is another Krishna book reading. Please accept my respects. Let me offer my respects to my spiritual teacher and to my spiritual grandfather, the teacher of my teacher, Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who translated the Srimad Bhagavatam 10th Canto into this Krishna book that we are reading and purporting upon, and put his reports. And so we are going to do some chanting, which is the prime benediction for humanity in this day and age of quarrel, chaos, and confusion. Lots of quarrel, lots of chaos, lots of unrest. Basically all the jivas lost in the material world are living and swimming and struggling in this ocean of nescience, this ignorant material world, completely in illusion, thinking that they are their body or their mind, not realizing that they are indeed jivatma, their spirit soul, part and parcel of the supreme soul, Krishna. And Lord Chaitanya has given us this process of hearing and chanting Krishna's names, hearing about Krishna Katha as a means to achieve self-realization in this age where it's very difficult to meditate for long periods of time or even concentrate for long periods of time. So we're given this very easy process of hearing and chanting Krishna's name. So please join in with me here. Haribo. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you for joining in again today. We are going to continue with our story in the Krishna book where Akrura was sent off to Vrindavan to bring Krishna and Balaram, sent off by King Kamsa. And of course, Akrura, being a great devotee of Krishna, was very excited to see Krishna and was praying and contemplating about what he would do. And so we're going to continue this. Akrura thought that Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna has now appeared as one of the descendants of the Yadu dynasty. The principles of religion are his enacted laws. So once again, this is an important point, that we're living more and more in a society where religious laws, spiritual laws, or any kind of regulation of moral things are actually being thrown out the window. So the principles of God's law, which used to be the way to guide mankind, is now more and more, and in all defense too of people who want to throw out religious laws, a lot of what has happened in Kali Yuga is that religion has become corrupted. Even the religious laws, we see this time and time again where great saints come into a situation where the religious laws have become, dry, speculative, and not missing the point. Like the Pharisees who followed the religious laws, they were laws that were laid down by God to Moses and the Hebrews to live in a certain way to help elevate your spiritual life. Or those people that were in captivity, in the Egyptian captivity, did not have any kind of religious system in their life. It was kind of all over the place. And so in order to create a monotheistic and bringing back one God idea, there were regulations, very strict regulations. You can read about them in the Old Testament in Numbers. I think it was Kings or Numbers. There's a lot of very detailed, specific deity worship and temple worship and rules and regulations that were systematically put into place to regulate. And when the time came, when Lord Jesus Christ came, he was basically saying that the regulations that were taught had got lost on the Pharisees. They sort of just kept them in place as a sort of system of power over people without really understanding. So Jesus Christ was trying to explain to the Pharisees that they were hypocrites. They didn't really follow the reasons for the rules and regulations. But the principles of religions are the enacted laws, and even in the Vedic system, it became a corrupt, where the Brahmanas were not even really following the rules and regulations. And Lord Krishna came as an incarnation of Lord Buddha to basically throw out the Vedic system, to restart over the process of coming to the point of Lord Chaitanya, of love for God, bringing about the real reason why the rules and regulations needed to be in place in the first place. Those who are abiding by such laws are demigods, and those who are not abiding are demons. He has advented himself to give protection to the demigods, who are very obedient to the laws of the Supreme Lord. The demigods and the devotees of the Lord take pleasure in abiding by the laws of Krishna, and Krishna takes pleasure in giving them all sorts of protection. These activities of Krishna, his protection of the devotees and killing of the demons, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, are always good for men to hear and narrate. The glorious activities of the Lord will ever increasingly be chanted by the devotees and demigods. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the spiritual master of all spiritual masters. He is the deliverer of all fallen souls. Yeah, that word, of course, right? Parira Pavana, which means the deliverer, the deliverer of all of the most fallen, right? Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's what he's seen as, because he's seen as the deliverer of the most fallen. Krishna comes to deliver the most fallen. And Lord Chaitanya especially is known as being the most munificent of all incarnations of God, because he is the deliverer of the most fallen. He is giving freely. What they say, that he robbed the storehouse of love for God, tasted of it, and gave it away freely. So just like Krishna used to give away the butter to the monkeys, and Lord Chaitanya has given away the devotion of love for God, the prema bhakti, freely to people, anyone, the most fallen. There's no hard and fast rules. There's no recommendation for someone could be the most sinful of all people. But that's what it says in the Bhagavad Gita, even the most sinful, one could be the most sinful, but if he is situated on the boat of knowledge, he is assured victory, he's assured the protection of Krishna. These activities of Krishna, he is the deliverer of all fallen souls and the proprietor of the three worlds. Therefore, he is, just like it said, he is the owner and controller of all things in the three worlds. So we've come back to that point again, that Krishna is the all things animate and inanimate are owned and controlled by Krishna. And a sober person really understands, what has been allotted to him temporarily by Krishna. It's not, they never feel like this is mine, or if they lose it, oh, why did God take that away from me? That they use it in the service of Krishna. Because Krishna is the proprietor of all three worlds. That is the right position. Krishna is, as it says, as the gopis said earlier in a previous story, you are the only enjoyer, and you are the only proprietor, and you are the only friend, right? So they said to Krishna before the rasa dance. Krishna is the owner and controller of everything. Anyone is able to see him by eyes smeared with love of Godhead. Today I shall be able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who by his transcendental beauty has attracted the goddess of fortune to live with him perpetually. As soon as I arrive in Vrindavan, I will get down from this chariot and fall prostrate to offer my obeisances to the Supreme Lord, the master of material nature and all living entities. The lotus feet of Krishna are always worshipped by great mystic yogis, so I shall also worship his lotus feet and become one of his friends in Vrindavan like the cowherd boys. When I bow down before Lord Krishna in that way, certainly he will place his fearless lotus hand on my head. His hand is offered to all conditioned souls who take shelter under his lotus feet. It's a very beautiful statement. It's true, too, that all one needs to there's a wonderful picture of Krishna that I've seen, that where he's flying on his bird carrier Garuda, and there's a person in the ocean, and he's reaching up to Krishna, and Krishna's reaching out to take him, because even the strongest swimmer in the ocean has no chance, and not even the strongest, so-called strongest materially person has a chance in this ocean of nescience. They're just completely caught up. And if they understand that the position that they're in, and they cry to Krishna, for protection. Krishna is there with his hand to take us. He's right there. Like in the Mundaka Upanishads with the two birds. The bird is always present, watching his friend when he's trying to enjoy from the material world, eating, ignoring Krishna, turning his back to Krishna, saying, where is God? There is no God. But yet they're suffering. And then they say, why am I suffering? Please tell me the answer. Why am I suffering? And then Krishna there takes hold of the devotee, pulls him out. In this way, Akrura expected blessings from the hand of Krishna. Let me read it. His hand is offered to all conditioned souls who take shelter under his lotus feet. Krishna is the ultimate goal of life for all people who fear material existence And certainly when I see him, he will give me the shelter of his lotus feet. I am aspiring for the touch of his lotus-like hand on my head. Lotus-like hands on my head. So this is the ultimate goal for people who fear material existence or fear death. They just take shelter of Krishna. And even in that fear, Krishna is still the goal, because Krishna appears to those who deny him as time, as death. And ultimately, they have to go back to that. And they have to, but in the material world, being caught in samsara, the body will die, the soul will continue, but it will still remain in the material world and take on the karmic reaction of how we've acted in our life. In this way, Akrura expected blessings from the hand of Krishna. He knew that Indra, who is the king of heaven and the master of the three worlds, the upper, middle, and lower planetary systems, was blessed by the Lord simply for his offering a little water, which Krishna accepted. Similarly, Bali Maharaj gave his only 3 feet of land in charity to Vamanadev. He also offered a little water, which Lord Vamanadev accepted. And thereby Bali Maharaj attained the position of Indra. So even it says in the Bhagavad Gita, one can offer me a fruit, a flower, a lotus flower, or even a little bit of water or a leaf, and I will accept it if if it is offered in love. And it is the love that Krishna wants. So what more when you offer your life to Krishna, love? Krishna will accept it. Actually, Krishna even says he is indebted to the devotee who just offers his life, just like the gopis. He was saying, I'm indebted to you, I cannot pay you back. And that is enough for the living entity. They don't want the payback of giving me something in return. They just want to offer their life in Krishna. That is the real pleasure of giving your life. That is the real nature, the real situation of our existence as living entities. It's like a baby who's been picked up by its mother, right? The baby's not like, oh, I want, toys and clothes and things like that because you want to pick me up and I want to be picked up. And that's just the art of picking me up and taking me in an embrace. That's just the wonderful experience because it's so natural. In this, let's see where we like. When the gopis were dancing with Krishna in the rasa dance, they became fatigued, and Krishna smeared his hand, which is as fragrant as a lotus flower, over the pearl-like drops of perspiration on the faces of the gopis, and immediately they became refreshed. Thus Akrura was expecting benediction from that supreme hand of Krishna. Krishna's hand is capable of bestowing benediction to all kinds of men if they take to Krishna consciousness. If one wants material happiness like the King of Heaven, he can derive that benediction from the hand of Krishna. If one wants liberation from the pangs of material existence, he can also get benediction from the hand of Krishna. And if one, in pure transcendental love for Krishna, wants personal association and the touch of his transcendental body, he can also gain benediction from his hand. Akrura was afraid, however, of being deputed by Kamsa, the enemy of Krishna. He thought, I am going to see Krishna as a messenger of the enemy. And at the same time, he thought Krishna is in each and every one's heart as a supersoul. So he must know my heart. Although Akrura was trusted by the enemy of Krishna, his heart was clear. He was a pure devotee of Krishna. He risked Kamsa's wrath just to meet Krishna. He was certain that although he was going as a representative of Kamsa, Krishna would not accept him as an enemy. Even though I am on a sinful mission, being deputed by Kamsa, when I approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I shall stand before him with all humility and folded hands. Surely he will be pleased with my devotional attitude, and maybe he will smile lovingly and look upon me and thereby free me from all kinds of sinful reaction. I shall then be on the platform of transcendental bliss and knowledge. Since Krishna knows my heart, certainly when I approach him, he will embrace me. I am not one of the members of the Yadu dynasty, but I am an unalloyed pure devotee. By his merciful embrace, my body, my heart, and my soul will be completely cleansed of its actions and reactions of my past lives, When our bodies touch, I will immediately stand up with folded hands with all humility. Certainly Krishna and Balaram will call me Akura, uncle. And at that time, my whole life will be glorious. Unless one is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his life cannot be successful. So that's a very important point. My Guru Dev, my spiritual master, said it's not important. We're always worried about, like, how can I see God? You know, or God doesn't exist. I don't see him. I don't, it's like as if he's like a planet out in the solar system. We put a telescope long enough, we can actually see him. No, he is a supreme person, and he wants us to be in a loving relationship with him. If we're not in a loving relationship, if we're envious of God, God has the right to hide from our view. So no matter how far we look out in the solar system, or no matter how far we look in with a microscope, we will never see God. God will hide himself from us. God does hide himself from us because we are envious of God. But the person who wants to know God, wants to love God, then, it's this statement, unless one is recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his life cannot be successful. So, as my Guru Dev would say, it's not so important that you see God. It's more important that God sees you. And what does that mean? Of course, God sees you, always. But it's more about the attitude of your consciousness, of your devotion. What do you do for Krishna? What kind of connection do you make with Krishna? What do you try to do and to be pleasing to your spiritual master? These are the most important things. These are going to make Krishna see you. And that's what really matters. Then your life is successful. It is clearly stated here that one should try to be recognized by the Supreme Personality of Godhead by service and devotion. There it is right there. Without which the human form of life is condemned. People are trying so many things in their life, acting on a platform that's just like completely insane. Not realizing that their lease on life is unpredictable. They don't know whether you're going to die today or you're going to die at 90, but regardless, you're going to die in this. Your body will die in this life, and people put so much effort into their human form of life, of trying to find some kind of material happiness or pleasure, or some kind of political action to try to change the system, without even realizing who you are and what the purpose of your life and how successful things could be if you recognize that you are not your body and you're not your mind, but you are spiritual and you are a servant of Krishna. So coming to that point, to that realization, that is the success in your human form of life. The human form of life is the most valuable life because you have the capability of inquiring about why you're here. No other form of life can do that. So there are so many living entities who are caught on the wheel of samsara, who do not have the ability to contemplate. But yet we have switched God's laws into personal laws to try to act on, as what Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada would call, being a polished animal, being a very polished animal. So we have lots of comforts and freedoms to basically act how we want to act. If we want to be a homosexual, we can be a homosexual. We want to change our sex, we can change our sex. If we want to sleep with children, that's on its way. If we want to just kill our children in abortion, we can do that. It's like whatever goes, for our own freedoms of what we think is ourself. But actually, this is not who we really are. We are none of these kind of things. And none of these things, we're not even like a human, but we are in a human form of life. And so we have the capability of inquiring and saying, oh, this is actually not me. This is not my body, it's not me, and my mind is not me, but I am actually a spiritual entity who has forgotten Krishna. And my purpose is to try to realign myself back into the system of what is already there. Remind myself of who I am and what the purpose of my life is. So, As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Lord Personality of Godhead is equal to everyone. He has no friends and no enemies, but he is inclined to a devotee who renders him service with devotional love. The Bhagavad Gita also declares that the Supreme Lord is responsive to the devotional service rendered by the devotee. Akrura thought that Krishna was like the desire tree in the heavenly planets, which gives fruit according to the desire of the worshipper. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is also the source of everything. So Krishna is the source of everything. Everything. Everything comes from him. A devotee must know how to render service unto him and thus be recognized by him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is therefore explained that one should serve both the spiritual master and Krishna simultaneously, and in that way make progress in Krishna consciousness. So you need the devotee. It's like God gives us Guru and Guru gives us God. That's the saying, You need the person who will guide you through back to Krishna, who has been guided by his spiritual master, and so on and so on. That's why we say, I was born in the darkness of ignorance. As a living entity, I was born in this darkness of ignorance. I've been lost. And my spiritual master, but I found my spiritual master, has opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. In other words, I'm just completely blinded by the darkness of nescience. But the spiritual master brings this light, and through his spiritual master, through the Krishna consciousness, to guide us out of this cave. Service rendered to Krishna under the direction of the spiritual master is bona fide service because the spiritual master is the manifested representative of Krishna. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur says that when one satisfies the spiritual master, he satisfies the Supreme Lord. It is exactly like service in a government office. One has to work under the supervision of the departmental head. If the supervisor of the department is satisfied with the service of a particular person, a promotion and increase in pay will automatically come. So it's a pretty long chapter, but there is a prayer that my Gurudev has instructed us to pray, coming from the Srimad Bhagavatam, in that there's two prayers. The first one goes, the great sage Prabhupada said to King Nimi, my dear king, a disciple has to accept the spiritual master not only as spiritual master, but also as the representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In other words, a disciple should accept the spiritual master as God, for he is the external manifestation of Krishna. So it's not saying the spiritual master is God. It's saying that he's an external manifestation. So therefore, he's like the representative of God. He's the same. He's just like Jesus Christ said, I and my Father are one in will. They are connected because Jesus Christ taught what Krishna wanted him to teach. The spiritual master teaches exactly what the spiritual master, what God wanted him to teach. And that was handed down disciplically from Krishna through a disciplic lineage, from teacher to student, unchanged, this message. And then it goes on to say, Krishna said to Uddhava, my dear Uddhava, the spiritual master must be accepted not only as my representative, but as my very self. He must never be considered on the same level with an ordinary human being. One should never be envious of the spiritual master as one may be envious of an ordinary man. The spiritual master should always be seen as a representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and by serving the spiritual master, one is able to serve all the demigods. So a spiritual master is even higher than demigods. It's unnecessary, as Krishna says, to worship demigods, because they are devotees of Krishna. We can satisfy all the demigods, just like watering the root satisfies all the trees and the branches. Satisfying the spiritual master, the pure devotee of Krishna, is like serving the Supreme Lord in that way. And one should never be envious, just like you shouldn't be envious of God. In other words, what does that mean? It means like a desire to be right. You give your life to the spiritual master, they have to show you where you're wrong in your thinking, because we've spent so much time in our life of just trying to be the right one, and whatever goes You see that in the world today. Whatever goes, whatever works out okay in my mind, my life, and how I want to live my life is the truth. Sometimes the truth goes very, very wrong against what society is saying. And there's plenty of examples of the way that society is going now that's wrong, because it's not in the Vedic scriptures. It's the quite opposite, There's a story in the Srimad Bhagavatam also about Kali, King Maharaj Parikshit. In the story, he comes across a Shudra, Lorna Shudra, actually Kali, the impersonation of Kali in this age, not the demigoddess Kali, but the embodiment of this age of Kali Yuga was there, cutting off the legs of, killing a cow, cutting off the legs, which is a very simple thing, but it was a very symbolic representation also, that the cow represents the Vedic system and society, and there were 4 elements on the legs of a very religious society, and he had cut off 3 of the legs, and there was only 1 leg left, and they represent different kinds of things like religiosity and I'd have to look it up to know all the specifics, but basically all the things in the previous yugas that were very spiritual and benefit for society are now being cut off, and this is what Kali Yuga represents. Everything that was spiritual or religious in the past or right for society is now being turned on its head. Religion is seen as something that gets in the way of people's enjoyment or is wrong for people's rights and blah, blah, blah. And there's so many other kinds of things: selfishness, greed, lust, so many hatred, war, so many things that are coming out of that because of how society's been turned upside down by this. But I digress. Anyway, the point is that we're going to read more about that, and just a final thing, we were talking about serving the spiritual master, and the spiritual master is a representative of Krishna and one who shows the way to Krishna. So we're going to chant some more, and we'll continue with our story next time. Thank you very much. all for tonight. We will pick up with our story for next time. Thank you very much. Namaste.